So I am here with Surveyotech's Chief Executive Officer, Robert Kledal, and we're here to talk about risk management. So hello, Robert, welcome.
Hello.
And I'm going to hit
Thank
you with question number one straight away. So how is the concept of risk changing in maritime, and what does that mean for how operators need to think about resistance?
It's a good question. So I think what we see as a global safety provider, but actually a risk mitigation, a service provider for our customers, is that it's moving from being sort of historically perhaps perceived as a local issue on the vessel or a technical issue here and there to become a more systemic, that now vessels are also checked, and they should be, on their management systems as opposed to just the individual technical components.
Yeah.
So we see that it has to be a much more holistic and integrated approach that people take to managing the safety risk on the ship. And then you have external factors, obviously, like geopolitics, trade shifts. That means vessels move around, trade patterns change. So where did you used to get your service done? Maybe now you have to get it done in a new place, establish different relationships and infrastructures. And then we see very clearly as well that you have an aging fleet of vessels. It's actually, the average age had moved up fairly rapidly the last few years.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly logical, because ship owners wrestle with a lot of stuff like dual fuels and how should I design and equip my ship for the future when compliance and rules are changing all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe they're letting sort of the older ships live a little longer to get a little more certainty on the future.
Yeah.
And what we see is that there's an exponential risk development as ships get older, especially as they pass the age of 20, 25 years.
Yeah. So your new white paper, which has just been written, covers the cost of import detentions. To what extent are rising detentions a symptom of broader pressures in the industry?
Well, clearly it is. There's a 100% correlation here. So what we see is that the number of inspections over the last, let's say, 6-8 years have been pretty stable, but the number of detentions that come out of this stable number of inspections is rising. And what we see when we look at the incidents and analyze all these, that of course aging of the ships, as I mentioned, is a pretty big part of that. There's very strong correlation here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the more complex compliance regime, because, as we all know, every time something happens, there's a new rule, and we've seen quite a proliferation of compliance rules and regulations and so on. And therefore, customers have to take a more sort of a wider approach and make sure that they are aware of all the compliance issues that can arise, and have a management system for it, as opposed to, if you will, just a checklist. Yeah. So we clearly see that. And then we have sort of a general operational strain where you have less time in port, and therefore less time to get everything
and get
done.
It right. Yeah.
And get it right.
Yeah, agreed. So, and you mentioned this earlier, so how do geopolitical tensions and trade disruption change the risk profile for operators?
Yeah, so what we see is, of course, more sudden changes sometimes have to be made. You can say sudden change if a port closes or a strait closes, and therefore you have to reroute the ships. And do you then have the infrastructure in place on the new route, or the partners in place on the new route to execute that compliance regime that there is? And if you're used to sort of a certain pattern and suddenly you have to switch, well, it becomes more stressful, of course, and maybe it falls outside sort of the instructions that people have. And remember, shipping is a 24/7 industry, so it can be Friday night, it can be Saturday night. So we definitely see that those shifts, both in trade patterns sort of over the year, but also more on a weekly basis. If something closes, or a daily basis, something closes, you have to reroute. So that matters, and it puts certain stress on the whole system.
What will define a resilient fleet for the next decade?
Really good question, and I think an important one, and one that most ship operators and managers should be asking themselves. Obviously, I think crew training and crew compliance is enormously important. I would say, of course, as Surveyotech, that you have to choose good partners, because you can't do everything on your own, and you can't stay up to date on everything. So leave safety to some good partners, leave some other operational aspects to other good partners is clearly very, very important. And then as we talked about, making sure that you have sort of not a piece by piece approach to safety and say, now I have this inspection coming up for this piece of equipment. Gather your equipment and have what you call a sort of an aligned due date for some of this stuff, so you don't have in one port these 5 things and in one port these 5 things. Try and align, the certification dates of your equipment and service. I think makes life much easier if you do it like that.
I agree. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So that was Robert Kledal, Chief Executive Officer of Surveyor Tech, talking to us about risk management. Thank you.
Thank you.